This is Ross Feingold on the Taiwan Hashtag program, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan, hosted by Storm Media. We're back after the Lunar New Year holiday and amid the Lantern Festival here in Taiwan. But the big story, the only story in East Asia, is the coronavirus spread. Thank you, China, for giving us this virus gift. What are the conditions here in Taiwan? We're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of coronavirus in Taiwan. First, the good. The good news is, here in Taiwan, the number of confirmed cases as of the end of this past week was only 18 cases. By comparison, South Korea had close to 30 cases. Hong Kong and Singapore, they were in a race to crack past 60 cases. They were each hovering in the 50s, and they will probably go over 60 soon. But here in Taiwan, only 18 cases, so big round of applause for Taiwan's health officials and the central government's handling of the coronavirus. And no surprise, according to public polling, the approval level of the government's handling of the crisis is so high. In fact, the Minister of Health, Chen Shih-chung, his approval rating for handling of the coronavirus, 82%. My gosh, politicians around the world, take note. Try getting an 82% approval rating for your handling of any kind of public health or other public policy crisis. So another big round of applause for Taiwan's handling of the coronavirus. 82% public approval. They seem to like what the minister is doing. Another good thing, you may have seen news. Cruise passengers quarantine in port. Cruise ships sailing around Asia, nobody will let them in. There's been an example of that as well last week. But the Superstar Aquarius, a cruise ship that had traveled in international waters, had visited ports outside of Taiwan, came back to Taiwan. Why did it come back to Taiwan? Because 90% of the passengers were actually from Taiwan. It was allowed into Taiwan, even though other cruise ships were no longer allowed into Taiwan. The passengers were tested for fever and they were allowed to disembark within hours. No great drama here. So once again, another example of the good and how Taiwan officials can quickly take temperature tests of arriving passengers. Now, it probably helped that most of those passengers were Taiwanese. There was not a lot of need for translation. The people were citizens, so no need to look at foreign passports and stuff like that. But good job letting the cruise ship return to Taiwan. The passengers were tested for their fever or for their temperature at the Geelong port, and they were quickly allowed to disembark and to return home. Speaking of home, Taiwan's quarantine rules, and that's going to take us a bit into some of the bad things about Taiwan's response to the quarantine or to the coronavirus, and that is there has been confusion about quarantine rules. This has been changing very rapidly. Now, of course, it is sometimes in response to changing conditions around the region as more cases were discovered in China, as cases were discovered in other parts of China outside of Wuhan, and then as more and more cases were discovered in other locations. But the rules keep changing. Hopefully now they won't change again, but they did change multiple times within the space of a few weeks in the period after Lunar New Year. Very confusing for the public, very confusing for Taiwan citizens, and it was also very confusing for foreigners, yes, foreign residents like me, foreign residents in Taiwan, or for foreign visitors. Basically, though, if you've been in China or you've been in Hong Kong, Macau, you're going to find it really difficult to enter Taiwan. There's going to have to be some special circumstances, and you're going to have to prove, if you were in Hong Kong, you'd have to prove that you weren't in China, but not easy. Not easy to come to Taiwan right now if you've been in China, Hong Kong, or Macau. In fact, it's going to be all but impossible. Other countries, if you're coming from other countries to Taiwan, it's generally okay. You'll be tested for your temperature. If you have a travel history in China, probably shouldn't bother coming to Taiwan because you might get quarantined. Now, for Taiwan nationals who've been in China but don't have any fever, they'd have to do some health checks on their own. They might have to, there's an app where they could enter their temperature levels and report it into the authorities. If they've been in China in recent days or weeks, they can still come back to Taiwan. Taiwan's their home, so Taiwan citizens can still enter Taiwan. But if they had been in China, then there is a mandatory 14-day quarantine at home. But again, these rules have been changing frequently. It's been a bit confusing for some of the public. There was news of foreign visitors who had been in China and they had to be quarantined and no hotel wanted them. There's been a lot of confusion about Taiwan nationals whose spouses or children are Chinese nationals and what kind of rules apply to them. Are they allowed? Well, first they were allowed, and then there was some confusion where one government agency responsible for relations with China said they're allowed, but then the health ministry said, no, we're not letting in people who do not have local ID. If you have a local ID, you can come in, but if you don't have the local ID and you're a spouse of a Taiwan national, but you've been in China, sorry, you can't come in. So a lot of confusion and changing on that. Another significant area of confusion, buying masks. And what are the rules for buying masks? Are there even masks in Taiwan? So let's break this down. Yes, there are masks available in Taiwan. Exports are prohibited. Initially, government authorities said, no need to worry. We have enough masks. 24 hours later, boom, change that policy. No mask exports. Want to make sure there is, in fact, enough local supply. So yes, there is enough local supply. A lot of people are wearing masks. A lot of people here in the office at Storm are wearing masks. How do you buy a mask? You bring one of these, which is your health insurance ID card. Here in Taiwan, they have a national health insurance plan. Bring your ID card. Every 7 days, you could buy 2 masks. Now, that's also been a source of a lot of confusion. People initially thought that this meant once a week, once a calendar week. People misread the instruction, or they didn't understand it, or perhaps the government did a bad job of helping people to understand and publicizing what it meant. It's every 7 days because your name is in the computer system, your details are in the computer system. The computer system knows when you last bought your mask. So every 7 days you could buy some more masks here in Taiwan. Not such a great system, but and there's a lot of confusion. It's kind of working out. There was even an internet meme flying around of the PLA fighter jet asking the pilot from Taiwan when the PLA got a little too close to Taiwan Island in recent days during their military exercise, asking if any masks were available in Taiwan. And the pilot from the Taiwan Air Force said, yeah, every 7 days you could buy 2 masks. A lot of people found that entertaining. Other bad policy or confusion included school openings. Because it was the Lunar New Year holiday, schools were closed for several weeks. At the university level, school had ended. Exams had been in early January. Schools were supposed to open on February 17th at most universities. A lot of confusion about whether the central government should tell universities that you must extend your opening date, or universities should decide on their own, and depending on whether it was a public university, private university. So a lot of confusion there. A lot of foreign students who are studying in Taiwan, they weren't sure when they should go to Taiwan. Some of them decided, I don't want to go to Taiwan, it's too dangerous. So another area where there really was a bad policy rollout, a lack of clarity. Most universities in Taiwan have extended their opening date to early March, similar to what we're seeing in some other parts of East Asia, but definitely an area for improvement. What about some of the uglier sides of Taiwan's dealing with the coronavirus? Well, unfortunately, some of these issues might be out of Taiwan's hand, or are they not? World Health Organization, a lot of confusion about whether or not Taiwan should participate in World Health Organization meetings and responses to the coronavirus outbreak. We all know that China doesn't want Taiwan to participate in the WHO unless Taiwan accepts the 1992 consensus, which the government of President Tsai, recently reelected, will not do. So Taiwan says Taiwan gets shut out because of Chinese pressure on the WHO, saying, nope, don't let Taiwan participate. This past week, there was a technical meeting. Taiwan experts were allowed to dial in from a remote location from here in Taiwan. They didn't participate or physically go to the meeting. Taiwan is saying this is a big breakthrough. Actually, Taiwan health experts have participated in various kinds of WHO technical events, meetings, discussions. So maybe it's not necessarily a breakthrough. Yeah, Taiwan, you need to do more to get international support. You can't just rely on the United States or Japan to periodically issue statements of support. So that's definitely an issue where Taiwan needs to do more to make a convincing case. Don't just say China's bullying us or not having information hurts our response. Because the thing is, Taiwan's response is actually really good. You only have 18 cases in Taiwan. So Taiwan, you've got to make a better case for why you should be in the World Health Organization. Another issue that is somewhat ugly are countries that have prohibited Taiwan travelers or people who had been in Taiwan from entering their country. Italy, Philippines. Italy did it, then they were changing it. Philippines, within the last few days, said, nope, sorry, no passengers from Taiwan can enter the Philippines. Understandably, that's made Taiwan very angry. First of all, they're saying, look, we're not part of China. We're not Hong Kong. We're not a special administrative region of China. So don't loop us in with how you're treating passengers or incoming passengers from China or Hong Kong or Macau. But the other important thing is that Taiwan has only a small number of cases. At the end of the week, less than 20 cases. So Taiwan, you have got to explain this to the Philippines very clearly. Maybe the China angle is not a sufficient thing to say. Don't just make the China argument, oh, we're not part of China. I think in the Philippines, they know that Taiwan is not a part of China. You should probably focus on the strength of Taiwan's response and say, look, we only have less than 20 cases. Here are all the things we're doing to control the outbreak in Taiwan. We have a very effective quarantine system where we have temperature checks, et cetera, et cetera. So Taiwan, you have to explain this to the people or the government officials in the Philippines. They may be confused. Maybe they think that Taiwan has more cases than actually exist. So don't just blame China. Don't even just blame the Philippine officials. There's talk in Taiwan of some retaliatory measures against Filipino travelers or maybe even Filipinos who need to come to Taiwan to work, because there's well over 100,000 Filipinos working in Taiwan as domestic helpers in homes, factory assembly lines. So there's talk about retaliatory measures. Let's hope that the Philippines and Taiwan don't get into this tit-for-tat retaliation, but there is this ugly side of the coronavirus and Taiwan's response where Taiwan gets grouped in with China, Hong Kong, and Macau, and it's something that Taiwan needs to do more to resolve. I'm sure we'll be talking more about Taiwan and the virus in the coming episodes of Taiwan Hashtag. I'm Ross Feingold. You've been watching Taiwan Hashtag on Storm Media. Thank you.